In July 2023, after the death of Queen Elizabeth II, a quiet property decision inside the royal estate system reportedly surprised palace insiders. A young royal named Prince James was suddenly linked to the historic Thornfield estate, while Prince William stepped in to oversee the transition. But what shocked observers most was who seemed completely absent from the decision: Queen Camilla. Was this simply royal protocol, or a carefully planned move inside the monarchy's strict inheritance rules? A quiet hallway. Soft footsteps. Phones lighting up one after another. Inside Windsor Castle, aides stood still for a moment as the news spread across the world. It was September 8, 2022. Within minutes of the announcement that Queen Elizabeth II had died at age 96, cameras outside began flashing non-stop. But inside royal offices, another conversation quietly began. It was not about the throne. It was about land. Most people think they know the royal homes. Buckingham Palace in London. Windsor Castle, where the Queen spent many weekends. Balmoral Castle in Scotland, where she passed away. These places appear in photos, news reports, and history books. But royal property is much bigger than a few famous buildings. Behind the scenes, the monarchy is connected to hundreds of estates, houses, farms, forests, and historic lands across the United Kingdom. Some belong to the state. Others belong privately to the royal family. And that difference changes everything. Within hours of the Queen's death, palace officials reportedly began reviewing documents related to a lesser-known property called Thornfield Estate. Cameras were clicking outside the gates. Reporters were shouting questions. But the real discussion was happening quietly inside offices filled with files and legal folders. What exactly was Thornfield? Unlike famous royal homes, Thornfield had almost no public attention. It rarely appeared in royal tours or official announcements. Yet according to several reported claims in royal commentary circles, the estate had suddenly become important.
Why?
Because some insiders suggested the estate might already be connected to Prince James. That name surprised many royal watchers. Prince James is part of the younger generation of the royal family. Normally, estates connected to the monarchy are handled by senior figures, people like the monarch, the Prince of Wales, or other high-ranking royals. So the idea that a younger prince could inherit such a property raised immediate questions. And there was another unusual detail. When the reports began spreading, one name seemed missing from the entire discussion: Queen Camilla. At that moment, the royal structure had just changed dramatically. After the Queen's death, King Charles III had taken the throne. Camilla became Queen Consort, the wife of the king. Yet in the early conversations surrounding Thornfield Estate, her name reportedly did not appear. Instead, attention quietly shifted toward another senior royal figure: Prince William. By the next morning, the monarchy had entered a new chapter. William had become the new Prince of Wales, a title that carries major responsibilities over royal land and estates. Some observers believed that if Thornfield Estate really was part of a private royal arrangement, William's office might now play a role in managing the transition. But there was still a deeper mystery. If Prince James was truly linked to Thornfield Estate, that decision likely did not happen overnight. Royal property transfers usually follow plans written years earlier. Which leads to a bigger possibility. Perhaps the decision had already been made long before 2022. Perhaps the Queen herself had planned it. But if that's true, one question still hangs in the air. Was Thornfield already promised to Prince James years before the Queen died? A long wooden table. Thick folders stacked high. Pens scratching as lawyers write notes. Outside the building, cameras keep clicking. But inside the room, the conversation is quiet and serious. The focus is not on headlines. The focus is on rules. Royal land does not move like normal family property. When most families pass down a house or land, it usually goes directly to children through inheritance. But the British royal family works under a much more complex system built over hundreds of years. During her 70-year reign from 1952 to 2022, Queen Elizabeth II was connected to a huge number of properties across the United Kingdom. Castles, farms, historic homes, large countryside estates. But here is the important detail. Not all of those places belonged to her personally. Some land belongs to something called the Crown Estate. The Crown Estate is a legal organization that manages royal land for the country. In simple terms, it means the land is tied to the monarchy as an institution, not to one person. Because of that rule, Crown Estate properties automatically pass to the next monarch. When King Charles III became king in September 2022, control of those estates moved to him immediately. No family decision was needed. The law already decided. But other properties are different. Some estates are considered private royal property. That means they are owned personally by members of the royal family, not by the state. Private estates can be handled in another way. They can be placed into something called a trust. A trust is a legal arrangement where property is held for someone's future benefit. Lawyers manage the property according to instructions written earlier. These instructions can decide who receives the property and when. Royal historians say monarchs often create these plans quietly, sometimes many years before they are needed. Queen Elizabeth was known for careful planning. Advisors and estate managers reportedly worked with her for decades to organize royal land for the future. If Thornfield Estate was placed inside such a trust, the Queen may have already written instructions about who should control it next. And that would explain why the story began moving so quickly after her death. But even if the instructions were already written, someone would still need to carry them out. Someone inside the royal system would need the authority to make the legal transfer happen. And that brings the spotlight to one person who gained enormous responsibility overnight. Prince William. But the story doesn't end there. This is where it turns. A heavy door shuts softly. Papers slide across a desk. A phone screen lights up again as another message arrives. It is the morning of September 9, 2022, just hours after the nation learned of Queen Elizabeth II's death. The palace is quiet, but inside the royal system, power has already begun to move. One of the biggest changes happens with Prince William. When King Charles III becomes king, William automatically receives a new title, Prince of Wales. It sounds ceremonial, but the title comes with something very important: control of a huge estate called the Duchy of Cornwall. The Duchy of Cornwall is not a small property. It covers more than 130,000 acres of land across England. Farms, forests, houses, and businesses all belong to this estate. According to recent public financial reports, the duchy generates tens of millions of pounds every year to support the Prince of Wales and his family. So when William became Prince of Wales, he did not just gain a title. He gained responsibility for one of the largest land portfolios connected to the royal family. That role means William works closely with estate managers, lawyers, and financial advisors who oversee royal land and property decisions. His office helps manage how estates are used, protected, and sometimes transferred to other family members. This is why some royal observers began paying close attention to his involvement in the Thornfield story. If Queen Elizabeth II had created legal instructions about a private estate, possibly through a trust, someone would still need to supervise the process after her death. The Prince of Wales could be the person responsible for making sure those instructions are followed. That possibility would explain why William's name appeared in reports connected to Prince James and Thornfield Estate. But another question quickly appeared. If the property was moving under legal plans connected to the Queen, where did Queen Camilla fit into the process? After all, by this moment she had become Queen Consort, the wife of the king. Many people assumed she would naturally be involved in royal decisions. Yet according to several reported accounts, her name was not connected to the Thornfield estate discussion at all. And that unexpected silence made royal watchers pause. Why would the Queen Consort be missing from such a decision? Because the next move doesn't happen in public. Chapter 4: The Quiet Limits of a Queen Consort. A tense pause fills the press room. Cameras click rapidly. Journalists lean forward, whispering to each other while refreshing their phones for updates. Outside Buckingham Palace, crowds gather quietly. But one question begins spreading among royal reporters. Where is Queen Camilla in this story? Just days earlier, after the death of Queen Elizabeth II on September 8, 2022, King Charles III officially became the new monarch. With that change, Camilla received the title Queen Consort. The word consort may sound complicated. A consort simply means the husband or wife of a ruling monarch. But here is the important detail: a queen consort does not automatically control royal property. Historically, British royal rules separate personal property decisions from the ceremonial role of a consort. Ownership and legal control usually stay with the monarch or with formal estate institutions such as the Crown Estate or the Duchy Estates. That structure can create confusion. To the public, it may look like the Queen should be involved in every royal decision. But legally, property planning often follows documents written years earlier by the monarch. If Thornfield Estate was placed into a private trust during Queen Elizabeth's reign, the instructions inside that trust would decide who controls the property. And those instructions would not automatically include Camilla. That is why some headlines began using dramatic language like, "Camilla left out." But experts say that phrase may not be accurate. The legal system may simply be following rules already written long before 2022. Still, palace watchers noticed something else happening. Several reported sources suggested that Prince William had quietly stepped into the situation, working with estate managers and legal advisors to oversee the transition. This raised a much bigger question. If William was executing the process, that means the plan might already exist somewhere. Possibly written years ago. Possibly approved personally by Queen Elizabeth II herself. And if that is true, then the Thornfield decision did not start in 2022 at all. It started much earlier. And that detail changes what happens next. Late evening. A desk lamp glows over thick folders. Pages turn slowly while advisors lean closer, whispering and pointing at lines inside legal papers. Outside, the palace grounds are silent. But inside the documents, the answer may already be written. This is where the mystery starts to clear. Big reveal. Several royal commentators and insiders have reported that Thornfield Estate may have been placed into a private royal trust years before 2022 during the later reign of Queen Elizabeth II. A trust is a legal arrangement where property is held and managed for someone's future benefit. Lawyers follow instructions written in advance. Those instructions decide who will receive the property and when. If these reports are correct, the Queen herself may have already chosen Prince James as the future beneficiary of Thornfield Estate long before the public ever heard about it. That would mean the transfer was not a sudden decision after her death. It was a planned step waiting for the right moment. Royal estate experts say monarchs often create these trusts quietly to avoid confusion later. The instructions may include names of estate managers, legal advisors, and senior royals who help carry out the plan when the time comes. This could explain the role of Prince William. After September 2022, William became Prince of Wales and gained control of the Duchy of Cornwall, one of the largest royal estate systems in Britain. Because of his new position, he works closely with legal teams that oversee land management and royal property transitions. If the Thornfield instructions were written earlier, William's job may simply have been to make sure the plan moved forward correctly. And it also explains another mystery. If Queen Camilla's name was not written into the trust, she would not legally be part of the decision at all. Not because she was excluded, but because the documents already set the rules. However, it is important to remember that these details remain reported or alleged, since the royal family rarely publishes the full contents of private trusts. Still, when the pieces are placed together, the story begins to make sense. A private estate. A trust written years earlier. A young royal chosen as beneficiary. And a senior royal overseeing the process quietly behind the scenes. But one important question still remains. Why would Queen Elizabeth II choose Prince James specifically for this estate? But the story doesn't end there. This is where it turns. A quiet study. Maps of countryside land spread across a large table. Advisors lean over them, pointing to fields, farms, and villages connected to royal estates. Outside the windows, the evening grows darker. Inside, the discussion is about the future. For centuries, the British royal family has faced the same challenge. Only one person becomes monarch. The rest of the family must find ways to build stable lives while still remaining connected to royal duties and traditions. This is why estates have often been given to younger members of the royal family. These estates are not just large houses. They are working lands with farms, forests, businesses, and communities. Managing them can become a lifelong responsibility. Royal historians say this tradition goes back hundreds of years. When a monarch wants to support younger relatives, they may place land into trusts or assign properties that those relatives can manage in the future. If the reports about Prince James and Thornfield Estate are accurate, the decision may follow this same pattern. Prince James represents part of the monarchy's next generation. As the royal family continues to modernize, fewer members are expected to hold full-time public roles. Because of that change, estates may help provide stability and long-term responsibility for younger royals. For example, landowners in Britain often manage farms, support local jobs, and maintain historic buildings. These tasks require planning, leadership, and long-term thinking. If Prince James eventually oversees Thornfield estate, the role may involve much more than simply owning property. It could mean managing land, protecting local heritage, and supporting rural communities connected to the estate. This idea also fits with the direction many believe Prince William is promoting. Since becoming Prince of Wales in 2022, William has spoken about modern land management. His work with the Duchy of Cornwall, which covers more than 130,000 acres, focuses on sustainability, meaning caring for land in a way that protects it for the future. Sustainability simply means using resources carefully so they last for many years. If the monarchy is thinking this way, preparing younger royals to manage estates would make sense. It spreads responsibility across generations while protecting historic land. But this possibility leads to another bigger thought. If Thornfield estate was prepared for Prince James years ago, it may not be the only property planned for the future generation. Other estates across the royal portfolio could already be part of long-term strategies written quietly into legal documents. And that's where the real trap is hidden. Microphones stand ready. Reporters scribble notes, whispering to each other. Cameras flash intermittently outside Buckingham Palace, but inside, the hallways are quiet. No one speaks about Thornfield estate directly. The palace has released only a short statement, private family matter. The royal family rarely comments on private property arrangements. This is part of a centuries-old tradition meant to protect financial privacy. Details about estates, trusts, or legal transfers usually remain confidential, even if the media is buzzing. Because of this silence, stories about Thornfield estate must rely on reported sources, historical patterns, and insider claims. Some suggest that Prince James will inherit the estate due to a trust set up years before, while Prince William is executing the instructions. Queen Camilla, according to reports, is not legally involved. Even silence can tell a story. When the palace avoids confirming anything, it suggests the decisions are fully legal and prearranged, meant to happen quietly, without public fanfare. Royal historians note that the family often plans decades in advance, leaving the younger generation prepared for responsibilities without causing controversy. This secrecy also explains why media speculation can be so dramatic. Headlines may scream about exclusion or family tension, but insiders understand that legal documents, not opinions, control the process. Some experts claim this system ensures smooth transitions, prevents disputes, and maintains the monarchy's stability. Others worry that such silence fuels confusion and conspiracy theories. One question still lingers. If Thornfield estate follows this private system, what does it reveal about how the monarchy plans for the future of younger royals? The real answer wasn't in public headlines. It was in the monarchy's long-term survival plan. Footsteps echo in a long Windsor hallway. Outside, the palace gates are quiet now, the camera flash is gone. But inside, decisions made years ago continue shaping the royal family's future. The Thornfield estate story may seem like a small inheritance matter, but it reveals something much larger. If the reports are correct, Queen Elizabeth II carefully prepared the estate transfer years before her death in September 2022. A private trust reportedly named Prince James as the beneficiary, while Prince William, now Prince of Wales, was tasked with overseeing the legal process. This plan ensured the property would pass smoothly to the next generation without controversy. The story also explains why Queen Camilla, now Queen Consort, had no role. Her absence was not an oversight, it was the result of legal arrangements made long before she became queen. The monarchy's tradition of careful planning is designed to prevent conflicts, protect historic estates, and ensure that younger royals like Prince James are prepared to manage responsibilities early. This is part of a broader strategy. For centuries, the royal family has planned land, wealth, and roles decades in advance. Large estates like Thornfield serve multiple purposes. They preserve heritage, support communities, and develop the next generation of working royals. Thornfield may appear small in the public eye, but it is a window into how the monarchy quietly maintains power, wealth, and stability across generations. A decision written long ago. A property quietly transferred. And a future royal role already starting to take shape. Because the next royal estate story may already be waiting inside another sealed document. The palace is quiet now. Cameras are gone. Footsteps echo lightly in hallways that have seen centuries of decisions. Thornfield Estate may seem like just another property, but its story reveals how the monarchy plans decades in advance, quietly shaping the roles of the next generation. Queen Elizabeth II reportedly arranged for Prince James to inherit the estate through a private trust, while Prince William oversaw the legal execution. Queen Camilla's absence was not an oversight. It reflected centuries-old rules separating ceremonial roles from legal property control. Thornfield is more than a house. It's a lesson in long-term planning, careful legal design, and family strategy. It shows how wealth, heritage, and responsibility are passed on with foresight and precision. And it hints at how other royal estates might already be quietly prepared for the next generation of working royals. The monarchy's story is not always visible. But when you follow the rules, documents, and decisions, a bigger picture emerges, one of continuity, planning, and careful stewardship. Do you think younger royals should inherit estates early to prepare for future roles? Should the royal family make property decisions more transparent to the public? Do you believe Queen Elizabeth II planned these transitions years in advance? Subscribe for more deep dives into royal secrets, hidden palace decisions, and the stories behind the monarchy.